Hello, I am C3PO, and I believe the storyteller is ready, so let us begin.
So the episode starts off where Fennec carries her prisoner in from the last episode. This prisoner is questioned, threatened, and then they bring them into the mayor because the prisoner indeed says the mayor was the one who hired me after they threatened to bring him to the Rancor. The mayor denies any wrongdoing, kills the prisoner, and offers kind of Boba advice about being this new daimyo on Tatooine. The mayor then sends Boba to Garsa, who tells him that the twins, cousins of Jabba, are trying to lay claim for the territory. They arrive with their litter. There's kind of a street standoff where the Hutts threaten Boba. Boba threatens them back. Nothing happens. And then the Hutts leave. After that, Boba is back in a bacta tank, and we flash back to his time with the Tuskens. He's gained respect from them. He's no longer a prisoner. He's learning how to become a warrior. He's training with their chief warrior or their head warrior on how to fight with the gaffy stick in particular. A train comes by, shoots at the camp, and then Boba isn't happy about this, and so he gets a stick and a rifle and goes to Tashi Station to beat up a gang. And while there, he steals their speeder bikes, brings them back to the Tuskens so that they can kind of have a giant train heist to then protect themselves and figure out what the hell's going on. So after montages of Boba teaching the Tuskens how to ride these speeder bikes, they execute their train heist, stop the train, and are able to walk out all of the Pike Syndicate, who are essentially spice runners and have only been just shooting at the camp to protect their turf. Boba strikes a deal with them that they need to pay a toll. Boba is welcomed further into the Tusken tribe for being their savior here. They give him some, like a lizard that goes up his nose. He goes on a drug trip. He gets the materials to make his own gaffy stick. They get him a cloak as well. And the episode ends off with Boba doing a ceremonial tribal dance and ritual, showing that he's fully embraced the culture and ultimately allows us to now understand that this is a totally different Boba Fett from the Boba Fett of the original trilogy. He has grown significantly as a person in this time period. And thus we don't necessarily know everything about him moving forward. So that's interesting.
Yeah, and by the way, like an entirely different Tusken culture than we've ever experienced before.
Absolutely.
I found it really jarring at first, and then, and maybe I'm late to pick up on this, but suddenly all at once, and I guess it was when the Spice Runner train standoff concluded, and in particular with that line about how Buddy thought it was fine because they thought it was nothing more than uncivilized raiders in these parts. I realized, oh, we're doing an allegory for the redemption of indigenous people. That's what this whole story is. Throw in the fact also that Tamara Morrison is Maori, and suddenly this is a tremendous story to tell, an important story, a story, frankly, that I'm a little surprised and proud of Star Wars and Lucasfilm for deciding to tell now at this time. The only part I'm a little lost in is that Tuskens have a history within this franchise of literally being a thing that they're trying to now redefine. And that's going to be a little complex because I don't know if we should be expected to recontextualize every Tusken interaction we've ever experienced in Star Wars. Is this tribe different from other Tuskens, or are they just being illustrated differently?
I don't think that they are any different. And I think the episodes with the Tuskens and the Mandalorian were the first stepping stones in particular for this, in showing them in particular in kind of an Aboriginal comparison. And so one thing that I think is really, I guess, kind of well done is they're not straying too far away from the brutality. This is not a direct comparison. These are not... like they are in their own way civilized, but this is a culture that at the start kidnapped Boba Fett. They still straight up kidnap Boba Fett, and they only deem him worthy of not being a slave when he slays a giant beast. Shmi was beaten of some sort, and in general, the relationship between Mos Pelgo and the Tuskens wasn't good, but it was mostly just because of a misunderstanding. And that one was one where they were able to find kind of mutual ground as well. And so the Tuskens are misunderstood. I think that that's a very, very clear distinction that they're trying to show. And they're also trying to show that, yes, not all Tuskens are the same as well. There was clearly a different tribe. And you'll notice in particular the way that the women and the children dress. The women and the children in the camp that Anakin slaughtered dress entirely differently. And so that right then and there goes to show that these have some different cultural twist. And maybe there are certain groups of Tuskens who, I don't know, maybe they were in more oppressed areas and have become more extreme in their kind of behaviors, or maybe they have just become more extreme the same way that Saw Gerrera was a rebel and became more extreme and took it too far. And so I think that's maybe a bit more of actually that does maybe make a lot of sense, that a lot of those Tusken tribes could be viewed as some are different parts of, they're like rebellion pockets, and some of them have a process of pacifism like Mon Mothma, and some of them maybe are a little bit more willing to go to war, but are very level-headed like Leia, and maybe some are a little too, let's just beat people up like Saw Gerrera. And so, but it goes to show, don't jump to any conclusion for sure.
No, and I don't know if we're going so far as to say that this is like a land reclamation story, and they're just like defending themselves, because as you said, like they, and when I say they, I mean Tuskens in like the Star Wars franchise history have been the aggressor very often. So it'd be interesting to see where they go as they continue to build the backstory for this particular sect of the Tusken Raiders that Boba Fett interacts with, and maybe they too learn some civility from him as well. But I think it's important to say that it is more than just that they have some kind of unity amongst themselves, some kind of civility amongst themselves. They also have like religion, and they have rituals, and clearly there's a meaning to their gappy sticks. It's not just a baton. There is something sacred about their practices, and it'll be interesting to see how Boba Fett interprets that into this crime lord that he's going on to be, because like he still kind of is operating from his own ethical compass later on in the later timeline when we see him in the crime lord timeline. So I'm not really sure how that history with the Tuskens is informing the current character. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it is because like there is the great line of, well, if he's not going to speak, he no longer needs his head. That's pretty ruthless.
Yep.
So I don't, and I think this goes to show that there was a little bit of a ruthless nature from this Tusken tribe as well, and that maybe the Tuskens are the perfect group to have kind of adopted Boba in that way, because they're similar, but they have a code. Whereas Boba maybe was ruthless before, but missing that code.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what we're going to see. And I said some things a little bit before about how Fennec's past show her with a bit of a lighter heart. But then again, Fennec is the one who's also kind of pushing Boba to be a little bit more extreme in a couple cases. And there was a really great interview with Tamora Morrison. He's doing a bunch right now, and he's easy to give little tidbits away. And so their relationship will be challenged. They won't, like, I am confident that they will end up on the same terms based on the way he spoke. I don't think it will be a big, huge betrayal of any sorts, but I think there will be strain. And I think now that maybe that's actually going to come from the other way of Boba having a code that maybe Fennec doesn't.
Maybe.
And that actually may be the fact that Boba doesn't want to be carried around in this litter as much, that maybe that's something to consider as a bit of an angle, that Boba is maybe coming from a little bit of a moral high ground in this underworld. And that's a bit of a surprise. But then again, Mok Shaiz seem to have a lot of interesting advice for him too. So it remains to be seen as to whether or not he even has the tools to be a crime lord.
Well, just the fact that he wants to run Tatooine like a business, that he expects that if he brings this respect for the game to the game will respect him back. And it's thus far like not proving to be true. Like that right there is showing that and this is partly because he's a clone, I think. Like he was in a way bred to be a part of a working system. And so there's a great irony to the fact that he becomes this like Lone Ranger when he's like quite genetically the opposite of that. And so I know that like a lot of his thinking has certainly graduated beyond his original cloning computations, but it is kind of funny that I don't know if you've ever picked up on that dichotomy, but I guess I'm just kind of realizing it now, like that he is really quite the opposite of a clone spiritually.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is this Lone Ranger, but we are starting to see a lot more that maybe that's not the case. He thinks about his father constantly.
Yes.
And he was resentful of the notion of being called a clone in The Mandalorian. And so there are some interesting notions. Like it really stood out to me when Moksha's mentioned the notion of running a family.
Yes.
And yes, that's a mafiosa term, but at the same time, all of the rumors around, or I guess not necessarily rumors, but evidence, I should say, around that being part of this story make a lot of sense, with his daughter in Legends almost seeming to appear like pretty damn accurate to the like comic adaptation in one of the trailers. So there's a decent chance that he may have an estranged daughter that could appear in this show. And we learned about the fact that he has not just like millions of clone brothers, but he has a genetic identical twin sister. And so the twins, what we're referring to here, these two twins of Tatooine, where have we heard that before? There's twin sons, there's twins Luke and Leia, there's these twin Hutts. Well, Boba's got a twin and we haven't brought that up yet. And so it seems to be all these things pointing around that, but not necessarily, the compass hasn't directly landed on it yet for this story. And I'm kind of waiting for Boba's family arc to kind of be revealed. I think they're placing a lot of really solid stones for that to be something that also maybe influence his morality.
Something I struggled with in this second episode was the pacing. In one aspect, I just found a lot of the action scenes, in particular the train scene, too long. I didn't think this episode needed to be 52 minutes. I thought it was a little bloated, but also the way it was divided up in like main timeline and flashback timeline without any skipping around. It was very confusing that like the first half of the episode is crime lord Boba, and then he gets into the Bacta tank and looks like Joe Rogan, by the way. And then the second half of the episode is flashback Boba Fett. And it took so long to get there that I kind of wondered, wait a second, are we not doing any more flashbacks? And so I kind of found it very strange that we had like two mini episodes in this one greater episode. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm going to disagree on personal taste on pacing. I liked it. I can maybe agree that, yeah, you could shave maybe like 2 minutes out of that train sequence, 3 minutes, and I'm okay with that. But as an overall, I thought the pacing was really good, and I really love this episode. I do 100% think these should have been both released though in the same week.
Yeah, probably.
I think that there's a lot more punch that's packed with the two of them, and I think these kind of flashing back and forth between timelines. I'm not sure how it makes the most sense, because when you've got such a long flashback, it's a little weird. Like on the next few episodes, are they going to be like, I'd say this episode, I honestly, I didn't check, but let's say it's 60% or 55% flashback.
Yeah.
And the previous episode was, I don't know, maybe 50-50. So it's right around that mark. But if the next few episodes are like 30% flashback or less, I think those can maybe be kind of splintered in. Mm-hmm. But it feels a little weird to do it in like this big chunked way. I can kind of understand why they do it if this is the longest flashback they're going to have. But if not, then it is going to be kind of confusing. But then again, there is the issue of it seems to be purely Bacta tank related.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
And
It's
the
all
problem,
Greens.
but the problem with that is he's not going to be going into the back tank 3 times an episode.
No.
And so if they're going to keep up with that as the consistent angle, and he's not starting to get maybe like hallucinations in other ways, then I foresee it being singular moving forward, just because it makes way more sense, unless you start the episode with the flashback and then you can do one other one. So you can get 2 that way.
Another reason it would have been good to release this along with the pilot at the same time is all the fan service in this episode. How psyched were you to finally see Hutz?
So incredibly psyched.
Yeah,
like absolutely thrilled. I'll admit, they don't look like, most people have complimented that they look pretty good.
They're a little CGI for me. I was kind of hoping they'd be a practical effect like original Jabba.
And they do look pretty good, but they don't look great.
Right.
And they do look 2000. Like they feel like they could have been made where Lucas still owned Star Wars.
I agree.
And I don't really expect that from the show. With them needing to be carried, I get why they can't be practical. But under those circumstances, I don't know, find a way to practical it up a little bit. I don't know how they could have made it any different. I'd rather see Hutz than not.
I mean, there aren't enough people. There aren't enough pallbearers or whatever you'd want to call them anyway. So like, there's only like 12 guys holding like what 4,000 pounds of Hutz.
Well, that's actually one of my trivia questions.
Oh, how many guys there were?
How many guys are holding up the twins?
You know what? I bet it's more than 12. I'll go 16.
Boom!
Hey, I did it.
You did it. 6 on either side, 2 in the front, 2 in the back.
It's still far too few for what I assume has to be thousands of pounds.
Well, I think it was 7 guys inside the original Jabba the Hutt.
Right, I've heard that before.
Yeah, so it's or at least 7 guys, not necessarily 7 guys inside, but 7 guys to operate. So probably a couple guys inside and then a couple guys on the outside operating limbs and whatnot.
They both have interesting face tattoos, these Hutts.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, there's or I'm not sure if the sister has a tattoo, but they both have kind of like a pendant, like a piercing, like a chin piercing.
Right.
And then the brother seems to have a tattoo around that as well. But they're a cool design.
They're Jabba's cousins.
Yes. Yeah, they seem to be. And I'm not sure if they're one organism or 2.
I don't think I hadn't thought of that. They didn't look like Siamese twins.
No, they did actually, in my opinion. Like either the sister is sitting on the brother's extreme excess of fat,
yeah,
or she grows out of him.
I
think that's actually what it is, though. Weirdly,
I kind of like that, honestly. I think that's cool.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure Hutts are like hermaphroditic, and so I think they can just I don't know if that like or asexual or one of those capabilities that they're able to reproduce on their own, I believe.
Okay. All right.
And so there also could be some weird kind of offshoot there, but I don't need to know too much about the reproduction of Hutts. I'm going to keep that bit of Star Wars trivia a little far away.
That's fair. Now, their bodyguard is the coolest Wookiee I've seen since Chewbacca, the original. He's so friggin' cool.
Now, do you know anything about this Wookiee?
No.
So this Wookiee is Black Chrysanthemum. And so this Wookiee is a wonderful piece of fan service because you just think this is a cool ass Wookiee and there's no other reason to not think that. And it's not going to make any other difference because guess what? This is a cool ass Wookiee. Yeah. This is the scariest Wookiee in the galaxy far, far away.
Okay.
He has worked alongside Boba Fett. They know each other. They know each other quite well. He's worked alongside Dr. Aphra. And so those are really the only story arcs that I know Black Chrysanthemum from. I believe he's been in the Vader arc, so I think he's worked for Vader as well. But one of the most fearsome bounty hunters and predators in the galaxy is working for the twins. And so that is showing up with some stuff that is bringing a heavy to the fight.
Oh, yeah. And so, if he and Boba know each other, was there any kind of like knowing glance, any kind of indication that they have a history in this episode that I might have missed?
Not necessarily. There's that really. It's a great line. Let me say, you can bring as many gladiators as you wish, but these are not the pits of Dur, and I am not a sleeping Trandoshan guard. And so that can be referring to maybe an inside between the two of them, whereas maybe that's an inside joke that Black Chrysanthemum is supposed to understand that, like, yeah, it doesn't matter that you're here. I don't care that you're this big showboating warrior. And so I think that's kind of the way they're going about it. And it's also a little bit of game recognizes game too. Okay, we've worked together, and I don't remember, but my guess is Boba was the one in charge.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's going to be. I don't think he's too afraid in that regard. And he even says, like, you're going to have to kill me. So good luck.
Now, the other bit of OT fan service in this episode is we almost get to see a Rancor, and I was pretty excited. And then at the same time, as disappointed as I was to not see a Rancor, it was a funny move. It was a funny power play. It was a good scene.
Yeah, I was okay with it. It didn't it didn't fully land with me. Some of the dialogue beforehand was good, but some of it at the same time was a little odd. Like, I really like Fennec's line, overpriced, you're paying for the name. I thought that was really quite good. But other than that, I thought it was a little clunky. But I was also potentially waiting for one of the other Rancors, because we find out that Jabba has multiple Rancors through the Bad Batch. And so I thought that was going to be like a cool little reveal. There was going to be another one of his Rancors. But it does make sense that Bib wouldn't have been able to hold on to any of Jabba's Rancors, because he's a bloody moron.
Yeah.
But yeah, that bit was cool. That's not actually what I thought you were going to say is the other piece of original trilogy element. And so this is another thing that you may not have picked up on. And this is for the hardest core of nerds. And the thing that made me originally clue into what it was Cammy. And so that's a character that I only know because I adore watching all of the little nooks and crannies and deleted scenes of everything from Star Wars 2. And so Cammy and Fixer, I wouldn't have recognized Fixer. The casting was pretty good, though. I've gone back and looked. So Cammy and Fixer are Luke's friends that he goes to see at Tashi Station in the deleted scenes in A New Hope. And these are the two characters who are in Tashi Station that the Nikto gang is inside, that Boba goes and kicks everybody's asses. Those two people who are just there and cowering are Cammy and Fixer.
That's
and
amazing.
So I the only way I recognized it was because of her hairstyle. And I was like, oh my God, that's absolutely Cammy. And so the Fixer, I looked at that. And then apparently some people had caught a glimpse of this in the trailers as well in the Tashi Station, and they aligned it up. And so it's 100% Tashi Station. And I think that is a really cool little bit of fan service that doesn't impact it for anybody else. Didn't matter to you that these were characters that existed, but it made the scene a million times cooler for me.
Well, it actually makes it, I mean, it makes it a lot cooler for everyone now that you've shared it with the class, because frankly, I found him in particular, like, kind of lame. And I was like, why these people? And why are they people? Normally it would be aliens. And so, like, now that you've given that background, it makes a lot of sense that they chose to do this. And I greatly appreciate it. So it's obviously different actors cast, right?
Yes, but the casting is great. Yeah. In particular, Cammy, and she makes fun of Luke like hardcore. So she's pretty memorable in the deleted scene. She's an asshole to him. But it's a really cool kind of thing to bring back. And I think that it's having an episode of Star Wars television done in live action where a comic book character and a character from the deleted scenes of A New Hope are all blended together.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. That is a cool Star Wars smoothie. I am going to drink that up.
And this is the perfect, very flavorful little bit of fan service involving an oft quoted Star Wars line that really wasn't meant to have that much consequence on the overall series. And when I reference, I was going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters, I'm also indirectly referencing the Castle Run line, which should not have been turned into a whole feature film. Like, if you could just find a way to like dip it into some like B plot in an episode about somebody else entirely, people are going to be so gratified, and they're not going to be like exhausted by you constantly trying to please them.
Couldn't agree more. And the fact that Tashi Station appears as an unnamed location that is very quick, like nothing happens in it that is not at 1,000,000% fast forward and is
I
moving.
didn't know
just
that it was Tashi Station until your
Oh,
recap.
yeah, and like who would know that? And it's not something where that I clued in that it was Tashi Station until doing like the full realization of, oh my God, what the hell's going on with the characters. But that just goes to like, it doesn't need to be for the people who don't know, but for the people who do, that's great. And that's what Dave Filoni is there for. But I think you see, well, this one was also, it was directed by Steph Green, who I didn't look into, but I don't know anything about Steph Green at all. No. And so that was also kind of cool to see the fact like it had such a Robert Rodriguez-y vibe to it. I really assumed it was going to be one of the runs directed by him. So I was surprised to see that at the end, but you can definitely see his flavor on the episode as well.
Did Jon Favreau write all the scripts for this? I find it interesting that he seems to be like the sole creator of the show.
I don't think so. I don't know, but I'm gonna bet no. He seems to write most of them, but my guess is we're gonna see a script or two from Rodriguez or Filoni as the season goes on. My guess is
name is not all over this show the way it normally is on stuff.
No, my guess is he's spending most of his time working on Ahsoka at the moment, and that's probably why, because he'll be the Robert Rodriguez and the Filoni on Ahsoka, and Favreau to a degree. He'll obviously want Favreau to be involved to help shepherd him a little bit, but that's one that, boy, am I excited for too. So
we got a mayor reveal. We talked about that last week, assuming that was probably going to come up pretty soon. Do you know anything about this guy, about this species? What are your first instincts?
It's an Ithorian. That's the species. It's executed so well. Yeah, it just is so cool. The deep, like murmuring voice, and then this really cool translator device.
I love that. Like a mouth on the side of his head, and it's got a box on it that's translating what he's saying in real time.
It's really cool, and I'm pretty sure it's Robert Rodriguez who does the voice of the mayor.
Cool.
But it's so sinister with how calm, and it's absolutely your you come to me, it's very, very obscure mobster voice that only adds to the intimidating factor. We talked recently about the movie Don't Look Up, and that's a movie that I personally absolutely hated, but I will admit that in particular Mark Rylance delivered an incredibly sinister performance.
Oh, it was upsetting. It was chilling.
Absolutely, but it's just this really calm performance, and there's something that's really impressive when you can deliver sinister in a calming way, and that's what I think was delivered extremely well with this Moksha's character. And so I'm excited to see more of him. I would put so much money on this character dying. It's ridiculous.
Oh, sure.
It seems like the most killable. Like you are the Dryden Voss of this series, almost like a slam dunk. I'm assuming there's definitely someone you report to, even above the twins, and I'm sure the twins are working with somebody else. And so my guess is, and I'm sure that Moksha's is in cahoots with the twins. That's my assumption, is the reason as to why he's not playing ball with Boba, but at the same time said, "Oh, I didn't hire them," but at the same time, the Nightwind character was quite confident that the mayor indeed did hire him. So I believe that Moksha's is working with the twins, and that all of them are probably working for somebody a little bit higher up too.
Yeah, what is the Nightwind gang? Do we know anything about them? They're just like a third-party gang that was hired to ambush Boba.
I think they're new to canon. I didn't check though. I've never heard of them, but I think they're new to canon. Actually, let me. Yeah, but let me check that just to see, because the uniform is similar. Order of the Nightwind. No, just Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So another little grassroots bad guy organization to track.
Yep, and a little bit more in Fennec's kind of territory, assassins, not bounty hunters per se. And so I think that's a bit of an interesting distinction that they sometimes seem to make between the characters. But it seems like we're getting set up for, well, this episode is called in particular The Tribes of Tatooine. Yes. I think we're going to be the next episode. My guess is you could call it The Gangs of Tatooine. I think we're going to start seeing formations, whereas in the trailer, that scene where Boba is doing the offering to the Trandoshans and like the Aqualish and all the other kind of species that were part of, like, you were all, I think, lieutenants for Jabba. I think that's what's said in the trailer. That, my guess is, will happen in the next episode as he's trying to build people who can be loyal to him, who are higher scale criminals than those who maybe were working with Bib Fortuna, because he doesn't have a crew. It's just him, Fennec, and 8D8. And
no, and by the way, Fennec had a pretty low yield episode too. She didn't really have a whole lot to do in this one. I find it interesting that they're building the ensemble by just like recurring these other like local characters who don't necessarily have to be allies of Boba. And so we saw the Madam again, and we saw the mayor's major domo again, and these people who are apparently going to be series regulars, even though they don't need to be a part of his merry band.
Well, there's a poster for Garza, so she's definitely going to be, and I don't know what Jennifer Beals has been in, but she's a notable actress, and so that will be like, I'm assuming she will, like, we already know she's not that reliable of a character, but my guess is she will further set booby traps for Boba Fett as the series goes on. She will walk him to a slaughtering situation at some point, my guess is.
Is Tatooine the homeland of the Twi'leks? Because there are a lot of Twi'leks.
No, their homeland is Ryloth. And so they would go to Tatooine because Ryloth was heavily just taken over by the Empire. Twi'leks are, for some reason, the most enslaved species. And also slavery is such a high trade business on Tatooine that a lot of them end up there. And so I think that's part of the reason, is the fact that just a lot of Twi'leks, because they become slaves, are sold to Tatooine because that's where a lot of the slave owners are.
I do owe this episode overall a second viewing fairly soon, because about halfway through, I got very, very grumpy when I picked up my dinner to eat it off my lap, and I spilled the entire thing all over myself, like all over my white sweater, all over my jeans, all over my couch, just like rice and sauce and tofu, like absolutely everywhere. I had to pause, and it like burned my crotch for a second. Sorry if that's TMI, but it was just like in the middle of watching Book of Boba Fett, this awful disruption happened. And then for the next like 15 minutes, I was like, this is too long. I want it to be over.
I know what you mean.
Rice into my face. It was really bad vibes during my first viewing of this episode. So I owe it a second view.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. That is an easy way to ruin something if you have an extra external frustration get in the way. So
that's right. Any other thoughts about this? Any other like observations, or I don't know, if you must quiz me, you can, I suppose.
Well, to be honest, the trivia that I was going to ask, one of them was what distinguishes the brother from the sister. We already talked about that in terms of the tattoos and their jeweling pendants. I already asked you my night question of how many members were there carrying the twins. So that was impressive. You got that one. Oh, this is a fun one. There's a bunch of them I could ask that were in the episode. Like Boba Fett tells Garza she's sweating like a what?
Oh, I don't know. I don't even remember that.
A Gumpta on Mustafar. I thought that was funny. Okay. But what I want you to actually answer is spell black chrysanthemum.
Oh God. I mean, I can't, because
it's black like you would.
BLACK chrysanthemum.
Yes.
Are there curveballs?
It starts with a K.
Okay. All right. KRISANTON.
That's a really good guess. And of course, you never were going to get it in the sense that like Kashyyyk is spelled with 3 Y's in a row.
Oh, right.
Chrysantan. Krrsantan.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in there.
Four vowels it starts with. Sorry, consonants.
They didn't even say his name in this, right? Like
No.
similar to Tashi Station.
No.
I never would have known this.
No, absolutely not. It was just a fun one, like spell Bosco Diliasaur.
Yeah. Silent B. Any other dialogue that you wanted to highlight? Because a lot of what's spoken is just spoken by Boba. Is like a nitpick of mine that, like, when he's spending all the time in the flashback with the Tuskens who do not understand basic, he just keeps talking for our benefit. Like, and I realize that's just kind of what you do in movies.
I think that's what people do.
Yeah, maybe you're right. If you're a stranger in a strange land and you don't know the language, you just like do your best to communicate with the language you have, even though it's just completely not reading.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times there are words that people can pick up, but they're not even speaking in the same sound. So that's definitely not going to happen. No. I found one of his stray pets. I'm here to return it to its master. I thought it was good.
Yeah, that is good. Talking about the
Night Wind.
Yeah, Night Wind guy.
I am not a fool, Mokshays. And those who thought otherwise no longer draw breath. I thought that's good.
Badass, yeah.
The twins have laid claim to their late cousin's bequest. It's from Garza. And Boba saying, all that is his belongs to me now. I thought that's a really good line.
That's really good. That's powerful. Do we think Tamara Morrison has the charisma to carry a show? Is he like a leading man?
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because I think he's right on the line. He does have the charisma. I do think he does have the charisma. Does he have the acting chops? That's what's
kind of a part of what I'm asking as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, as somebody that is, he exudes likability. He has great facial expressions. But at the same time, Pedro Pascal is an incredible actor.
Yeah.
And even when he's not the one in the suit, they have somebody who is an incredible physical actor. And then they get somebody who's like Pedro Pascal is just a great voice actor too. And so he's able to convey emotion in a different way. Whereas you have, in particular, in this case, Tamora Morrison doing it all. He's trying to do it all at once. And that's hard. And it's also hard to get that badassery across too. And like maybe not necessarily focus on the craft of the acting as much. I think I think that's okay. I don't think he necessarily needs to be a sensational actor. I think you surround him with the right cast and good writing and it can work. And I don't think you necessarily, and I think he's carried it well enough in these first episodes that it works for me.
Well, and also like Robert Rodriguez is used to creating like camp violence. And so if you're looking for Laurence Olivier, you've come to the wrong show.
Yeah.
And so actually, I think he's pulling off the tone of it quite effectively. Yeah, it's just something I wanted to gauge. And also he is learning a lot of new things. I think, like, unless I'm like gravely ignorant about his career, he's never been so in the spotlight as this. Plus he had to like trim down and learn a whole new physicality as an actor. And
looks
so, like,
great.
He looks fabulous. He was shirtless at one point in this episode. And I was like, man, he pulled that off in like record time too. So I'm impressed. Something that I picked up on in watching these two episodes is that if we go back now and watch Empire Strikes Back, I think we're going to find Boba Fett has a really strong Australian accent as compared to Tamora Morrison.
No, not anymore.
No? Oh, they've replaced it?
They replaced it with him.
Oh, that's badass. I think I knew that actually. But they used to have a guy who's like real strip on the Barbie.
Yeah. Jeremy Bulloch was the original.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess that's chapter 2.
Yeah. There was one other really fun quote when Boba comes and he brings the speeders, a gift for you. Whoa, stop. No. These are mine. Stop. No, I will teach you how to ride.
Right. And actually, even more so than the train sequence, the montage where he's teaching them to like jump back and forth between speeders, I was like, no, come on.
That was too long.
It was too long. And I had a lap full of hot soy sauce. And I was like, no, this is not working for me. This is corny.
I did really I loved him crafting his gaffy stick. I just thought that whole sequence was really cool. And I thought the way the end of the episode happened with that ritual, I just thought as an overall, it showed the way that they embraced him. And I thought it was a powerful ending to the episode.
Robing up was really cool too when they gave him like the black cloak.
Yeah.
What are all your thoughts on like the lizard up the nose and like wandering into the desert to have an epiphany? Like obviously that was like spiritually metaphoric and it was supposed to speak to us like, or not speak directly to us, but it was supposed to like symbolize something from our world as well. But like that's an interesting path for this character.
I thought it was super weird in a super great way. I thought it was perfectly Star Wars. I thought it was the kind of thing that people, if that happened in the sequel trilogy, people would bitch and moan about. But at the same time, it's the kind of thing I could 100% have seen happening to Luke on Dagobah. It seems so incredibly Star Wars to me. And the fact that it gives him this weird vision quest, I thought it was really great. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Can you hear the gust of wind?
No, a wind out your window?
Yeah, it's like, it is crazy loud. I just assumed it could be picked up on the mic because it's so bloody loud.
Nope, you're all good. Should I read some birthdays?
Yeah, read off some birthdays.
Yeah, I'm just going to read the whole month of December because it was a big month and we have a few that are pertinent to our particular conversation right now. On Wednesday, December the 1st, a happy birthday to Riz Ahmed. A week later, December 8th, happy birthday to Dominic Monaghan. Friday, December 17th, Ryan Johnson, a Star Wars director, had a birthday. On Sunday, December 19th, Jennifer Beals, who is the Madame Garsa from Book of Boba Fett. So she's on my calendar now, and a happy birthday to her. On Tuesday, December 21st, Samuel L. Jackson had a birthday. Thursday, December 23rd, David Pasquizzi, who's the Major Domo from Book of Boba Fett. We got a couple of Book of Boba Fett.
Nice, you're adding these people in right away. Good.
Yeah, of course. On Sunday, December 26th, Tamara Morrison had a birthday. So I'm really sorry that I neglected to say that when we recorded on Boxing Day last week, because like
it was like 2 days after.
Yeah. And on Wednesday, December 29th, a happy birthday to Diego Luna, who is going to be seen yet again here in 2022. We're in a new year.
Yeah. We are likely to see him in the fall, Q3 timeframe. So that is very, very exciting. Nothing else really in the news, though. Everything is focused on, all eyes are on Book of Boba Fett. I think I didn't see ratings wise, other than that it did, I think, 14% better than the Hawkeye premiere. So I don't know what it. Yeah, the pilot. Yeah, so I don't know the comparison versus Mando. My guess is it's probably a good amount lower, but my guess is not a crazy amount. And I hope it sustains. I hope there's a good return from 1 to 2.
Well, it's just really different because there were like 4 Marvel pilots on Disney Plus in one calendar year. And there are 2 Disney pilots, I mean, live action, like main stage Disney pilots in 3 years on Disney Plus. And so, yeah, it's just like the economics of it are not comparable. Hopefully things hold up and it continues to get juicier as we go. We want to hear all your thoughts on chapter 2 of the Book of Boba Fett. It's called The Tribes of Tatooine. You can tweet us at recorder66 or email recorder66podcast@gmail.com. And if you want to be caught up with us by next week, watch chapter 3, which comes out next Wednesday. Please rate and review on your preferred podcast app. And if you're joining us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And until we are together again,
may the Force be with you.